3, 2, 1. Here we are, punters, for the Ralphy and Potsy edition, post Caulfield Cup, ahead of the Cox Plate. I mean, what a great time of year. Last week, Ralphy, I got stacks of emails from punters that were just dying to bet.
Yeah.
I got excited myself. It was fun doing the form for the Caulfield Cup meeting. What a great time of year, and I can't wait to Cox Plate Day and the two meetings at Moonee Valley.
We just want this type of weather. We're going to take this on a Monday. It just gives you that lift, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, 100%. We've seen some good racing, we've seen some quirky racing, and we've seen some track that played really well for 2 days and then not so well on Saturday. But I think there's reasons, and as usual, a pile-on is over the top.
Absolutely. The track on Saturday, there was some subtle advances, but when you play that out over, 1,400, 2,000 metres or whatever, and it all accumulates, it just gets blown out of complete proportion. So maybe the advantage from lane 1 to lanes 2 and 3 was somewhere between, say, a length and 2 lengths.
Yeah.
But then if the right horse gets in lane 1, it gets exaggerated. But if the like as we saw in some of the races, if the wrong horse gets in lane 1 and goes too quick, it didn't help them. They still disappear.
No,
you know what I mean? So you still have to have the talent to win the race and to use the advantage well. But it certainly does get blown. It just so much of the social media stuff, it's extreme, black and white. You know what I mean? Whereas the truth is, it's all in the grey areas. Well,
because you were kind enough to show me your track report on Friday, I had just beautiful clarity. I was hoping that's how it was going to play, and then when you said lane 1's better than lane 2, maybe a bit of lane 5 and 6 is okay, similar to lane 1, and then it's a bit lush elsewhere. But as you always say, we're talking degrees, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
talking monster situations. And the last point that I think added to the noise, there were 10 horses from Sydney that started single figure odds who had their previous start in Sydney. It's not Global Glamour.
Yeah.
So Global Glamour was first up. Previous start in Sydney, they were badly overrated by the market. They ran crap. One ran second, one ran third. I would say Nieta, we'll get to that, but I think Nieta's got maybe an excuse in the day. The rest of them, they weren't good enough.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. There's a lot of horses coming down from Sydney. There's been a lot of two-speed racing in Sydney. There's been, on the Saturday, there's been a couple of really red-hot performances and a lot of rubbish racing.
Yes.
So anything coming out of the rubbish races is just struggling. So anyway, just on the track, I just want to clarify what I did say to my subscribers prior to the meeting. My suspicion was, so I walked the track on Friday afternoon, shortly after 10 mil of irrigation had gone on.
Yep.
I suspected that lane 1 was going to dry quicker.
Yes.
Okay, and there's a really good reason for that I'll explain in a minute. Now, I wasn't certain of that. That was my suspicion. So I didn't go into the meeting saying I think you're going to have to be on the fence to win.
Yep.
I was saying my suspicion is, my best guess is that lane 1 is the A1 position.
Yep.
I was concerned about lanes 2 and 3 because of the density of the turf and the length of the turf. And then I thought if there was going to be an opportunity for run-on horses and midfield horses, it was going to be lanes 4, 5 and 6 and out there and out where the imported horse was in the Caulfield Cup. Melbourne. Right, so now I just want to explain exactly why I think that, and just want to talk a bit about Jason Kerr. Now, first thing I want to say is everyone I know in racing, whether they're a track manager, an administrator, a bookmaker, a punter, a trainer, a jockey, everyone I know in racing would like to be right as often as Jason Kerr is.
100%.
He is.
How long? 10 years? Minimum?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons why we noticed what happened on Saturday is because the track races perfectly so often that any bias stands out. So that's the first point I want to make. Now, this year Jason's had a very difficult set of circumstances to deal with. I think the main contributing factor for how the track played on Saturday was the meeting at Caulfield on July 1. That meeting's not normally there. It was a new meeting when they shuffled the program around, and it was in the 7 metre position.
So, this is big, and that's why I want you back over it. You're saying it's such a big butterfly effect that one extra meeting in July can then have a knock-on effect to the entire Spring Carnival?
Absolutely. Especially because first of all, they had a minor issue with the track due to winter. It was just winter, like it's the middle of winter, and as it turned out, that July 1 meeting had huge fields. The rail was in the 7 metre position. So everyone has to think about the 7 metre position, right? That's 1 metre out, so from lanes 2 out for where we raced on Saturday. Okay? And because of winter and just a minor issue of the things and the huge fields that we had at that 9 race meeting in July that's not normally there, it ploughed the track up in that section of the track. and because it's winter, it took longer to recover than it normally does.
Again, sorry to butt in, but one of the more amusing ones I saw on social media was, why don't they do what they do in Hong Kong? And I reckon Mick Goody, Jason Kerr and Marty Simon and Tim Bailey, I reckon they wouldn't mind the average temperature to be 32 degrees with the humidity of 85%. That's why they do it. As you say, in winter, you're not going to get the growth back.
Exactly. So you've got the track ploughed up in that section,
yeah,
from the 7 metre position out 3 or 4 lanes. Particularly, you know, what would have been on the fence in lane 2 on that day. That's where the most traffic was, and that's where the track was most damaged. Now, it took longer to recover than normal because it's winter. But then once it started to recover, because that area was ploughed, it sprouted. Like as soon as spring hit, that area grew really strongly.
Right.
Okay. So then when we have well, there was actually 3 meetings in the true position. If you go back to the grand final day, post grand final day meeting.
Yep.
Caulfield Guineas, and then the Wednesday meeting where the track's rolled. We moved the rail out 6 metres. So you've got 1 lane inside of where that July 1 meeting was, and then the next 2 meetings in that most area where that ground had been ploughed and then had grown back really strongly, and Jason left the turf stronger, the turf longer. Okay, so you've got the turf less dense in lane 1 on Saturday, more dense in lanes 2 and 3. Then because of the weather last week, so if it had have rained really heavily on Thursday, that rain would have penetrated the profile and it would have been even. But because he has to, if that rain doesn't arrive and he has to irrigate on Friday, okay, then the length of the turf and all them other factors with those lanes comes right into play. Now I think this is my suspicion, because I don't know if this is right or not, but I think because the turf was longer and more dense in lanes 2 and 3, 10 mils of irrigation Friday afternoon, I think it dried slower. Yes. And it dried quicker in lane 1 and quicker out in the wider lanes. Now, what that means on the race day when we're talking about such subtle differences is the horses in lanes 2 and 3 that are on pace are having trouble closing the gap to the leader if the right leader's there. Yep. But the horse in the box seat's not. The horse behind the box seat's not. They're getting into the race without using so much energy. And because lanes 2 and 3 aren't dragging the other run-on horses into the race,
yes,
you sort of get this effect where it's really hard. The horses that are making Granite Water are having to do it under using all their own energy. They're not being taken into the race by the other horses. And you know, you multiply all those factors out, and that's the sort of pattern that you get. But
as punters, we make judgment calls. As curators, you make judgment calls. The Weather Bureau makes a judgment call saying that it's going to rain heavily, and it didn't.
Yeah.
Stewards make judgment calls. Bonneville's okay to race.
Yeah.
Murray Baker, one of the best trainers we've ever seen.
Tavistock Abbey's okay to race. Turns up in bandages. Big gap between runs, and it didn't there were a lot of horses that just didn't turn up Saturday.
But that's so it's judgment calls all round.
Yeah.
And to all of a sudden do a pile on Jason Kerr, as you say, with more than a decade of expertise of getting it consistently right, without looking at the factors such as he would have been derelict in his duty if he wanted the track on Thursday with the Weather Bureau predicting 15 to possibly 20 mils of rain.
Could have ended in tears. Yep.
It would have been a bog heavy track for no reason.
Yeah.
So he had to not water. And then, as you've explained, because someone said to me, it was Chris Hyland, good man, but he said, I can't make him water at 2 in the morning. But the problem...
Can I make a point on that really quickly?
Yeah.
To Chris and other people that say stuff like that, do you understand how long it takes to get 10 mils of water onto that whole track? It takes 4.5 hours.
And that's just to get it on, but as you say, then to get it through is a different situation. So there's only so much you can put on the track on a Friday. I reckon it's the reverse of what Mick Goody copped on Derby Day. 2015, he made a judgment call to water and the rain hit.
Yeah.
So he got the double shot that way.
Yeah.
In this case, Jason made a decision not to, and it somehow missed. It's a fucking Weather Bureau. I was reading about something with hurricanes. Here we go. A quick lateral one. There's something that they could put. There was you could put droplets of silver or something in massive numbers. And there's a chance it can divert a hurricane. You know why they didn't do it? This is in the Michael Lewis book about the Undoing Project. You know why they don't do it?
Don't tell me.
Because if it does divert and then diverts into another town, good luck on that compensation claim. So in the end, they're better off saying, no, we're not going to do anything and let nature take its course. It's judgment calls all the time. So, so that was the track. And then.
So can I just say the only thing? So you know, just to be completely balanced, I just want to say if Jason asked me, which you know he won't, he'll make his. Yeah. Jason's his own biggest critic, without a doubt.
Yes.
Okay, so he'll be looking at everything about there, and I would just say that I would think if he had have cut the grass more at its normal length, it would have had a better chance of racing more evenly, in my opinion. Now I'm not sure about that, but I suspect that's the case.
Let me put one thing to you, and I've had some private conversations with some people who know what they're talking about as well since. Dominic Byrne mentioned that why don't they leave the rail true?
Yeah.
Over the years, that's been no, you shouldn't. But in this particular case, what about thinking of it this way? That because, particularly since the going stick's been introduced, strength of roots means that these tracks have never been better with decent weather. So the decision to put it out 6 metres, I think, started 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So both the tracks and the measuring wasn't as good as it is now. Pure hindsight here, nothing more, nothing less. If they left it true now for 3 days, with the better root structure and everything else that's working, would there be of concern to you?
Yeah, I just, you know, like weather would play a huge part in that. What you've got to remember is that the track was rolled for Wednesday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, to get it even with the next 6 metres out would have been impossible. So either the inside 6 metres would have had a significant advantage, or the next 6 metres would have.
Yes.
It would have been one or the other. You know what I mean? So what's the difference? I mean, in the end, I just think movable rails are part of the game.
Yep.
So either the industry's got to make a decision to eliminate movable rails, or we don't discuss it, because you can't pick and choose. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you'd left the rail there permanently in the true, there'd be a lot of unintended poor consequences of doing that.
And is that for track bias talk?
That's it. Done.
End of part 1.